If you can't lead anymore, you need to transfer power to me. Well, when Hitler read that, he absolutely exploded. This wasn't some enemy attack. This was a coup from his own number two. He immediately stripped Göring of all his titles, branded him a traitor, and ordered his arrest. His world was collapsing from the outside, and now it was collapsing from the inside too. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun committed suicide. Their final orders were clear: burn everything, documents, photos, even their own bodies. The goal was to just vanish from history, leave absolutely nothing behind. And for decades, what really happened in those last moments was a total mystery. But you see, that wasn't the end of the story. Not even close. Little bits and pieces of the truth actually survived, hidden away for years, just waiting for someone to find them. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at that discovery and see how it helps us piece together the final, desperate days of one of history's most notorious figures. So get this. In November 1945, a French officer, Commandant Raymond Rose, makes his way into the ruins of the Führerbunker. And what he finds there is incredible. Documents that somehow survived the fire. These papers give us the stunningly clear window into Hitler's final days. All right, first up, let's dig into the secrets these documents finally brought to light. I mean, we're talking about the big questions, right? Like, why the sudden marriage? Who was it that betrayed him from inside his own circle? How on earth was his body identified? And maybe most importantly, what did it actually feel like to be trapped in that concrete tomb? To really get what was going on in Hitler's head, you first have to understand the world he was hiding in. The Führerbunker. Outside, Berlin was literally a hellscape. Allied bombs were falling day and night. The Soviet Red Army was just miles away. The city was a pile of rubble. But inside the bunker, it was a totally different kind of nightmare. A world of just suffocating silence, except for this constant drone of machinery and an atmosphere thick with paranoia. And this whole world was buried 7 meters underground. Just think about that for a second. It's like being buried alive while your entire empire collapses right above your head. The bunker was just an oppressive place. Albert Speer designed it, sure, but it was basically a bomb-proof maze of cold, damp corridors and tiny, suffocating rooms. The only fresh air came from a mechanical ventilation system that made this constant, maddening noise. It's really no surprise that people who were there called it a place of pure mental torture. And right in the middle of this concrete coffin was a man who was just falling apart, physically and mentally. His decline really gives us an even clearer picture of what was happening in those final days. You see, Hitler was suffering from Parkinson's disease. It's a disorder that messes with your nervous system, causes these uncontrollable tremors, and in his last 10 days, the symptoms were getting impossible to hide. He was always trying to hide his shaking left hand in his pocket. His face was so pale and worn out that visitors said he looked 10, even 15 years older than he really was. He needed daily injections just to keep going, and his paranoia was completely off the charts. He was absolutely convinced one of his own generals was about to betray him, a fear that, as we're about to see, was about to come true. The one person who stuck by him through all this was his mistress of 13 years, Eva Braun. And a letter she wrote from inside the bunker, wow, it reveals this bizarre personal drama going on underground. She admits the place is terrifying, but then she writes that she's happy just to be with him. It's a statement that shows her loyalty, sure, but also the deep, deep isolation they were both feeling. And that fear of betrayal, yeah, it wasn't just paranoia. Just days before his death, it became very, very real. And it came from one of the most powerful men in the entire Nazi regime. We're talking about Hermann Göring. This guy was the head of the Air Force, a major architect of the German economy, and back in 1941, Hitler had officially named him as his successor. He was about as high up in the inner circle as you could possibly get. So Göring, thinking Hitler is trapped and totally cut off in Berlin, sends him a telegram. The message was pretty simple. If you can't lead anymore, you need to transfer power to me. Well, when Hitler read that, he absolutely exploded. This wasn't some enemy attack. This was a coup from his own number two. He immediately stripped Göring of all his titles, branded him a traitor, and ordered his arrest. His world was collapsing from the outside, and now it was collapsing from the inside too. This betrayal really seems to have been the final straw. With the Red Army at his doorstep and his own successor turning on him, Hitler started to meticulously, coldly plan his own end. So on April 29th at 1 o'clock in the morning, he marries Eva Braun. Right after, he dictates his will, writing, "I and my wife have chosen death." The next afternoon, he tests a cyanide capsule on his beloved dog Blondie, just to make sure it works. And then, only about a half hour later, he and Eva were dead. The plan was carried out with chilling precision. They said their goodbyes, went into their private room. Eva bit down on a cyanide capsule, and Hitler shot himself in the head. His staff, just following orders, carried their bodies up into the Chancellery garden, poured gasoline all over them, and set them on fire. He was determined to vanish, to make sure his body would never become some kind of trophy for his enemies.
But here's the thing. He failed. He couldn't erase every single trace. And that brings us to the final piece of this whole puzzle. A piece that was solved by those documents and a little bit of forensic science.
I mean, think about it. When the Red Army finally got to the bunker, all they found were scorched remains. So how in the world could they prove, beyond any doubt, that this was really Hitler? The answer, believe it or not, was in his mouth. The unshakable, undeniable proof was a very specific and very unique golden dental bridge. The key was this little fragment of a jawbone that the Soviets found in the ashes. Now, it was famous that Hitler hated going to the dentist. Because of that, he had all this extensive and really unusual dental work done. This one golden bridge, made to cover some missing teeth, was basically a dental fingerprint. It was the one piece of evidence that couldn't be burned away, and it gave them a positive ID. And that really brings us to our final thought here. Hitler orchestrated the destruction of his empire, his legacy, and even his own body. But what's the one thing he couldn't destroy? The evidence, the physical proof, and the paper trail he tried so hard to burn made sure that the truth, no matter how deep you try to bury it, will always eventually come to light.